Hello and welcome back to Zekism. Hope you've had a good Christmas / New Year. We're heading towards New Year anyway. And Stranger Things is sort of in that middle ground in between. I think it's safe to say that the reaction has been divisive to Season 5. Some fair, I think some unfair. Criticism I'm seeing online. People call it a dumpster fire and a woke pile of garbage. I really don't agree with those takes. But I think it's safe to say, and I think it's fair to say, the season has been slightly flawed, but with the caveat that we haven't seen the entire season yet. So I think it's always how you leave them, isn't it? So if the finale is absolutely banging, delivers on all fronts, makes us feel a certain way, then I think all will be forgotten. But I think Volume 2, released on Christmas Day, was, I think, on the whole, not received particularly well with 100% of people. I think there are elements of it, like I said before, that are fair, others that are unfair. But I think there are questions going into the finale, which is why we're here to discuss on what things that I would hope they will address, as well as ponderous sort of ideas that I might have in terms of I hope they deliver on this, or ideas I have going into the finale. Anyway, whatever this video is, let's discuss. There are spoilers, of course, for Season 5, as much as other seasons, as much as that matters. But if you haven't seen episodes 1 to 7, I do have reviews on the channel if you want to take a look. But I think on the whole, there are spoilers. So if you don't want to know, stop, go watch, then come back and let's discuss. But heading into the finale on New Year's Eve / day, let's discuss some of the ideas. So let's just get it out of the way. The most divisive comment I've seen on the internet, which again, fairly or unfairly, is Will, the Will of it all. Now, cards on the table, I love the character of Will. I've had so much sympathy for that guy since Season 1. That little kid got abducted, got abducted by a Demogorgon. Now we realise it was Vecna the whole time. And he has been processing trauma for the entirety of the show. He has been victimized by Vecna, now we know, throughout the seasons. And so I think that poor little guy, that now adult guy, has been through the ringer. I think he's absolutely been through the ringer. And for me, I disagree totally with what I'm gonna peg as slightly homophobic criticism online about the gay of it all. That aside, I think they told a really good story with his powers personally. The how of it all. I don't agree with the take that it was just a woke sort of agenda that they've inserted into there. I think it makes sense. I think it makes narrative sense that a traumatized kid would find the strength through a friend who's been through something similar to relay to them how they were experienced. How they experienced gaining the strength to be confident in that regard, and that led Will to find the power within himself to realize he may be able to use the powers of Vecna as well. I think, and Vecna was using that fear of his, to as a weapon against him. Well, there you go. And for any critics of the Will story of it all, it's clearly been intimated since Season 2 that he might be curious in that regard. And so it was inevitable that he was going to have a scene like this during the show. As I said, I love the character. I think he's great. I don't think it matters necessarily that he's gay. It really doesn't for the purposes of the story. But it just so happens he is a gay character. Sort of deal with it a little bit. And I'd be the first person to put my hand up and go, I don't like this political woke agenda that's been inserted in shows. I've criticised Marvel and other brands that do it because it is just essentially pandering. I think this was a really narratively well-told story that happens to feature a gay storyline with a gay character. Who cares? It really doesn't matter. However, let's get into the Will of it all. His power set. How important is it going to be going into the finale? I think crucial. I think Will is actually, in essence, maybe the more important character to defeating Vecna than 11 at this point. There may be reasons before that. I have my ideas as to why, the Millie Bobby Brown of it all, but anyway, I think Will's story from Season 1, he was the victim and now he's the conqueror. That's going to be how I think, or at least I predict how the finale will sort of end in a sense. That Will be partially, if not strongly, responsible for why they defeat Vecna. Or is it just Vecna? The Mind Flayer and the Vecna of it all. Who's the real villain? Who's the real mastermind? At this point, I think this is maybe one of the drop balls of Season 5. And Season 4, it was so clear. I thought it was so clear. Vecna's the villain. Vecna's the mastermind. Vecna's the sole focus of the show. Vecna's the thing we need to beat in order to defeat the Demogorgons, in order to defeat the Demodogs, in order to defeat the weird tentacles and the Mind Flayer particles. All of which are being controlled by this creepily psychotic, basically serial killer guy, kid turned supervillain Vecna. Season 5 has muddied that water slightly, and that's a criticism, I think, because it was very... I think one of the things that worked with Season 4 so well, it was a really tightly contained season. Okay, it was explosive and grand with all the different locations they were dealing with and all the split teams and stuff, but with a sole focus to defeating the singular villain slash Russians, but mainly it was Vecna, and it worked. It worked for that reason. Vecna was a great addition to the show. I think in certain respects sort of rescued the show in some regards in terms of people's minds, because Season 3, I don't think many people were excited for where it was going to go. Season 4 came out like a storm and absolutely got people back into Stranger Things. Now with Season 5, the muddying of those waters, the Mind Flayer being maybe the supervillain of it all, which is just a big, they're just particles. They are just a cloud. The fact that it's a sentient being, potentially, is a little weird, considering what the idea is that they maybe send Vecna out as their lead general. Dustin spelled this out in Season 4. I get that point. But I really hope that's not the case, because Vecna's a way more interesting villain. One, it's a person, so you can point at it and go, that's a real threat that we need to sort. Whereas the Mind Flayer, bar Season 3 when it turned into the blood and cartilage monster, I really don't understand why the Mind Flayer would be the sole villain. That's a really uninteresting villain, if that is going to be the end game of it all. There's also an idea online I've seen that Vecna may help them defeat the Mind Flayer. That sucks as well. I really don't like that idea, because Vecna's basically just abducted a bunch of kids. He is a villain in everyone who is rational, their eyes anyway. So I think Vecna has to be defeated. Vecna has to lose. Vecna has to go. And however that happens, I think Vecna has to be the big bad of it all. Hopefully there is an opening scene in the finale, and this is just full, glory pitch here. Vecna completely overpowering the Mind Flayer and bending it to his will, and so you can see going into the finale exactly who the proper villain is. That's a hope more than expectation, but yeah, I think one of the flaws I would agree with online criticism is the enemy of it all. They should have been more clear and direct with it. They've muddied that water, maybe deliberately, maybe accidentally, don't know, but that needed to be crystal clear from the off. And I don't think they have done. But there you go. So hopefully it's clear, but there you go. Next one. Callie. Oh, where do we start with Callie? Callie is a really unlikable character. I'll put it bluntly. And even funnily, she was really unlikable in Season 2. So, the fact that they brought back an unlikable character, doubled down on her unlikableness, to, let's be honest, a plot line in Season 2 from an episode we'd really rather forget. It was really a real outlier at that time. It was like, that's a really bad episode in an otherwise really great show, and I think maybe turned a few people off that season. Anyway, Callie, back to Callie. So she is a what do you call it? A visualist. So her power, essentially number 8, is to make people hallucinate, make people see things that aren't really there. That's her power, basically. She's less powerful than 11, certainly less powerful than Vecna. How she'll be important going into the finale, I don't know. That is if she is good, because I think she's sus as hell. Always did do in season 2. She's even more sus now. Her ultimate goal, again spoiler, is that her and 11 defeat Vecna and then basically kill themselves, because that would then rid the military of their purpose in trying to capture them and restart the program from Dr. Brenner. Basically using 11's blood instead of Henry Creel's to then replicate psychic beings for weaponization. That's essentially their plot. I think it's a really morbid thought. It does put into your head that, are they really setting up the fact that 11's gotta die at the end of this? Because that's weird. That's a really weird story. I mean, to a certain extent she's not wrong, but to another extent it's like, that'd be a really unsatisfying end to the show if that is where we're going. Anyway, long story short, I think Callie is one of the most, and that look, I'm going to put it down to the creators rather than the actress themselves. That actress, they do the actress no favors with their portrayal, because not only is she really unlikable on screen, you really sort of shudder a little bit when she comes on screen, because you're like, she's so negative, she's so morbidly sort of depressing to hear talk. Everything she says is a negative. She is an actively bad influence on 11 as well, and clearly, I mean, Hopper can see it, and so can Mike. They're talking in episode 6 or 7. We're just like, what? Your plan is stupid. What is she doing? She's completely twisting 11's mind. Anyway, my theory going into it is that she's got to be an agent of Vecna. She's got to be, right? Has to be some sort of double agent or a mole, maybe even for the military. I don't know. But it's such an odd decision for something that has been confirmed now, that they were setting that particular episode in season 2 with Callie was to set up a spin-off featuring Callie that basically never happened because the character was so unlikable. That episode was so hated that it became a no-go area. So here we are bringing her back, equally as unlikable, equally as unpalatable for any sort of we don't want to see more of her, basically. I hope that's by design. I hope that's literally, they brought back this unlikable character because essentially she's a double agent and she's gonna turn on our hero, turn on our favorite characters. Excuse me. But that's more than hope than expectation, because if it isn't, it's a big L, I think, for this season, because that's harping back to an era we really don't want to go back to. None of her story was sympathetic, bar the sort of when she was viewing the pregnant ladies. That was a really creepy scene, really well done. But you had the garner of sympathy with her there because they were using her blood. But again, equally not a really likable character whatsoever. And I really think that would be an L if there was nothing else to that character. But that's just my thoughts. The plan itself, from the hero's point of view, which I fully expect not to work, by the way, is to wait for the dimensions. We'll talk about the Upside Down, I guess, vicariously. The Upside Down was revealed to be a midpoint, a sort of, I don't want to say a holding area, but the midpoint, the mid-world between the Abyss, Dimension X, whatever you want to call it, and our world, Earth. And the Upside Down is a replication of 1983 because 1983 Hawkins, because that's when it was created by 11, that date. So everything was duplicated in the Upside Down. That's why it looks like that. The spores are because it's interdimensional, almost interstellar wormhole. Another question I've got that I really hope they answer as well is why is the wall of the wormhole fleshy? That wasn't explained in episode 5, 6, or 7. It did confuse me because my my understanding of and by the way, I'm not a physicist, but my understanding of wormholes is that they're not fleshy. So why that was created as fleshy? Was that part of the Upside Down? Sorry, was that part of Dimension X forming that wall? It doesn't seem that way. In which case, why is it fleshy? In which case, and the other thing is, there's so many questions about the dimensional aspects and the physical science behind it all. I really need Rip Thorne to explain what they're going for here, just so I'm aware of what to expect. But a part of my fear is that they don't particularly know, because it's like, oh, just the wall's fleshy, just deal with it. And I know I'm harping on about the fleshy wall. It was just really jarring because it looked like Dr. K, Linda Hamilton, was carving a piece of that wall in her lab. In which case she's got a piece of it. In which case she's testing it. In which case it might be really important. I know the answer is probably it's just, you know, what Vecna was sort of attached to in Dimension X. But I think at the same time you go, well, why is it fleshy though? That's not how that's not how wormholes work. Not black holes, wormholes work. Anyway, I dare say they're probably not going to explain that, but I really hope they do. Anyway, long story short, the upside down of it all, with the science being the I want to call it the shield generator, what they called it, that Nancy shot to basically, you know, dismantle the wall or at least damage it. Also, what happened to the everything getting sucked into space or oblivion? That seemed to sort of go away when they went back to the upside down at the end. So again, the science of it all, I guess, is what this section is. They have to explain the science of it all. It can't just be, it's a fantasy world, deal with it, get on board, because they've gone to great lengths to explain the mythology behind the world, especially the upside down. We've been asking what the upside down is for nearly 10 years. This can't just be, it's just the holding pattern, deal with it, go away, because again, that's one of the L's of this season so far, has been, well, that explanation, at least it answers the question, but it does pose more questions at the end of it, which you really need to answer in order for us to buy into this world as much as root for our heroes to defeat it, you know, because the plan is ultimately for Vecna to merge the worlds, which I hope is probably what should happen. I think he should succeed, and then they have to deal with the consequences, the aftermath. That'd be interesting, but there you go, that's my theory. Please explain the science, Duffer Brothers. I really need that explained in an episode, in the finale. Maybe just me? I'm confused? Let me know. The kids. Let's talk about the kids. The kids are important to Vecna. How? We know not why. I expect this one for definite to be explained. The last shot of the episode 7 of volume 2. I hate the way they ordered things, but yeah, the last shot was Vecna with the 12 children doing some weird Beetlejuice dance at the dinner table. They all looked up at the same time, obviously possessed by Vecna. They are crucial to his plan to reform the world, or at least merge Dimension X with planet Earth, or whatever you call our real world. In which case the upside down gets squished or merged as well. I'm not sure. But the kids are important. How are they important? This one needs to be explained. I think this one's quite easily explained. There's lots of theories about why they're 12. There's 12 faces of a clock. There may or may not have been 12 kids in the research facility. Not sure why there's 12, but obviously the reason being why there's 12 needs to be explained as well. I think that's probably an easy explanation, but they need to fully explain it as well. Just so we're clear and above board as to why there is. Anyway, and the long and short of it is that these children were selected because they were traumatized or damaged in some way. Bullied, dare I say it. So that's that. I get that part because that was explained with Will. So I understand that rationale carrying or following on. And we saw shots of Holly being quite upset. I'd imagine Derek had been picked on or bullied, or at least sort of browbeaten by, you know, his stature and stuff like that. You could put 2 and 2 together. But yeah, so I don't think the specific kids being selected is important. I think the number is more important, and why they're important to his plan. That needs explaining. Who are we losing? Who's dying? Who are we not going to see come out the end of this alive? That's probably the question most people care about going into the finale. We've sort of been we've sort of been told to expect tragedy. I think that's probably on the cards. We've already touched upon Callie's plan to kill herself and 11 for reasons. Should the plan go off without a hitch, which we probably know the plan isn't going to go off without a hitch. So let's explore who. The adults probably are the most likely candidates, let's be honest. So Hopper, Joyce, one or both of them seems likely, possibly Murray. And then we get into the sort of the adolescents, the teenagers, or the borderline adults. We've got Steve, we've got Nancy, we've got Jonathan, and we've got Robin. We've got Vicky to a certain extent, I'll put in there as well. She's along for the ride. She seems like perfect fodder maybe to die and have an upsetting scene with Robin. But the core characters, I think one of those is probably going to go as well. I hope it's not Steve, because I really like Steve and Robin. Sorry, Nancy and Jonathan fans. I don't particularly care about them as much as others, should I say. But yeah, I think it's an interesting dilemma here, because I don't think any of the kids are going to die. I could be wrong. I don't think any of the children are going to die. I say children, they are adults now, but they are playing adolescent teenage children now. But I don't think Holly or any of the younger children will die either, because I think that'd be really, really heartbreaking, bless them. So I do think we're probably going to lose the adults or the adolescents here. And yeah, I've got favourites who I'd rather not go, but I think the show actually does a really good job of making you like most, if not all, the characters, Callie aside. So I think it's sorry, Callie fans, if you are out there, but I think it's looking like we're gonna lose one at the very least. In a perverse way, I hope it's more, because I was saying looking forward to tragedy. I've sort of been expecting or bracing myself for a tragic end to some of these characters. So why we haven't seen any so far is surprising. I thought that one of the cliffhangers going into the finale would be losing someone important. We actually haven't lost anyone important so far this season, which is surprising, because I just thought it was going to be the way it goes. So, but yeah, who is going to die? Who do you think is going to die? Let me know in the comment section below. Please leave a like and subscribe on the channel. Give me your thoughts on Stranger Things in general. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to have a discussion. If you disagree with my takes, that's cool as well. I'd love to have a discussion, sort of, trying to just talk Stranger Things. It's a show that should be discussed. It's got a lot of ideas. Some great, some not so great. But I think on the most part, it's been a really great watch for 10 years. And I think we should be mostly celebrating its successes rather than pointing out its flaws. And I suppose this is what the video was supposed to be for. It probably sounded like a bit of a moan for 20 minutes or so, but I'm a big fan of the show, so I'm looking forward to the finale and saying goodbye to characters I've really grown to love over the last 10 years. So that's basically the point of it. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please leave a like and subscribe on the channel. I'll speak to you next time. Thank you so much. Bye bye.